If you're looking at getting your first VR headset, now is probably the most confusing time to get one because there is so much more choice. With the recent Pico 4, the Quest Pro, the PSVR 2 in February 2023, and possibly a Quest 3 coming out next year as well. And of course, Apple's new VR headset next year or 2024, who knows. All of this makes the decision to buy much more difficult. One thing to point out though, that even though the Quest 2 is 2 years old as a piece of hardware, the software inside has been updated almost every month for the last 2 years. The platform keeps getting new features, increased performance, and a constant rollout of new games and apps. Two big notable improvements in the last year are Meta saying goodbye to Facebook, with no longer a need to use a Facebook account to sign into your headset, and this would have made the platform more attractive to Facebook haters and those concerned about privacy. Secondly, SideQuest is available on the headset natively, which gives you access to hundreds of more games from inside the headset, which before had to be sideloaded by connecting your headset to a PC. More recently, you can now buy gift cards for games, and also developers have brought out Try Before You Buy. And this will allow you to try a game from 15 minutes or 30 minutes so you can decide whether you like the game before you buy it. This is a major development because sometimes you buy a game because you get sucked into all the hype and then you get it and you're disappointed, or you suffer with motion sickness. I'm very fussy with the games I buy, but there have been some gems that I've bought this year, including Thief Simulator, Greenhow VR, and more notably in terms of immersion and environment graphics, Red Matter 2 and Bone Lab. The great thing is, as well as Try Before You Buy, you also get a no quibble refund on games that you haven't played for more than 2 hours and haven't owned for more than 14 days, so you can take a chance on a game with no risk. I've now used more than half of my storage on my 256GB headset, so I've used over 128 gig. So this is what your games library could look like if you bought a 128GB headset. It fills up quicker than you think, especially with games like Medal of Honor, which take up to 40GB, so it's well worth considering the bigger 256GB version. And remember, it's not just games that take up space on your headset, you've got movies, screen records, and other apps as well. I tried not to spend too much money on my Quest 2 when I first bought it on additional accessories, but it was quite clear from early on that I needed some extra comfort. The battery is built into the front with the Quest 2, which makes it really front heavy. And after a couple of weeks of playing, I bought the Elite strap and a comfier facial interface. I've bought and tested a lot of accessories in the last 2 years, and the three that I would say are essential for a more immersive experience and for better gaming sessions are the VR Covers facial interface, the AMVR powered head strap, and the Kiwi design extended controller covers. Investing in a better head strap is the best VR investment that you can make for the Quest 2, and this one improves comfort and triples the battery life, as well as giving the headset better balance on your head. The Pico 4 straight out of the box is definitely more comfortable than the Quest 2 with the standard strap. It's balanced with a battery at the back and is lighter, but it does in my opinion feel a cheaper quality than the Quest 2. The battery life of the Quest 2 sounds really good at 2 hours, but you can burn through 2 hours of gameplay quite quickly, and when I'm on there with my son I can usually play on there for more than double that time. When we used to play for long periods, we used to add a power bank, but the new powered headset that I just showed you is a much better solution. The controller battery life is ridiculously good and lasts for days on end, if not weeks. And I use rechargeable batteries so I can keep 2 on standby, so when the batteries run out, I'm not scrambling around looking for batteries. The Quest 2 experience blew me away when I first used it. I would, however, love to have a greater field of view and get back more of my peripheral vision that's blocked by the headset itself. And those tiny gripes do make the likes of the new Pico 4 headset appealing, because it does have a greater field of view, and this is something you notice using the Pico. Plus with the Pico you have higher resolution pancake lenses and a motorized IPD setting, and this gives you more options to adjust to your eyes. And there's a colour pass-through which allows you to look around your real life environment in colour, which opens up a lot of mixed reality opportunities for the future. However, despite these benefits of having the Pico 4, I did find the whole experience of using the Pico 4 a little bit underwhelming. The design and the feel of the home environment felt less crisp. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but even the lack of sound effects when you're drawing your guardian boundary just took away from the excitement. And these missing elements are the things that made my first experience with the Quest 2 quite a magical experience when I first put the headset on and I first drew my guardian boundary and mapped out my playing area. So in comparison, my experience with the Pico 4 user interface felt a bit dead. The game library is big on the Pico 4, but not quite as big as the Quest 2, and it doesn't have those big exclusives like Beat Saber and Resident Evil. And when I searched for some of my favourite games, Bone Lab, Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, The Climb 2, Thief Simulator, they weren't there, and No Saints and Sinners means No Saints and Sinners Chapter 2. The Pico 4 is slightly ahead of the Quest 2 in some respects with some of the features mentioned, but even the colour pass-through of this headset has some drawbacks. The colour pass-through isn't in 3D, which is really weird on the brain, and when I first used it, it actually gave me motion sickness, and I don't really know why, but I had to sit down. It was really weird. The black and white pass-through of the Quest 2 is fair enough, it is dated, but it is functional as well, and it does just allow you to see your surroundings, which makes you safer and helps you to communicate with people when they walk in the room. But if mixed reality is your thing, then the black and white pass-through of the Quest 2 doesn't really cut it, so it's worth bearing that in mind. The graphics are very good in my opinion on the Quest 2, and I know this is very subjective and certainly up for debate, especially among more hardcore gamers. And of course it could be better, and you're never going to match the resolution of a PC. For me, the immersion in some of the environments, especially on games like Red Matter 2, does blow you away, and the graphics are good enough that you feel well and truly immersed with some incredible detail. The new PSVR 2 that's coming out next year is set to take the graphics to another level, but the big disadvantage is that you're tethered to the PS5, so you've got a cable attached to you. Motion sickness is always a big topic for conversation with VR, and all I would say is that if you suffer from motion sickness, don't let this put you off of VR. And there are hundreds of titles that have almost zero motion sickness. 95% of the time I don't suffer with motion sickness, and this may be down to the type of games that I play, but overall I think that the VR experience will surprise you if you've previously had negative expectations. There are also a lot of games you can play sat down which help reduce motion sickness, and you can adjust the motion sickness settings in some games as well. In terms of bugs and lag, I haven't experienced any lagging or tracking issues with the communication between the controllers and the headset. The physics of my favourite games do feel really realistic with the Quest 2, and this is enhanced by how responsive the controllers are. You also have hand tracking with the Quest 2, so you don't even need to use the controllers, and this has been updated to hand tracking 2.0, and there are more games now that have been released in the last year where you can use just your hands. And it's quite a magical and fun and smooth experience. The games are relatively cheap. The most I've paid is $29.99, but most games I've bought are for around £15 and some under a tenner. And with the side quests I mentioned earlier, you can get a lot of free games as well. My first impression of the built-in speakers on the Quest 2 was really good. The sound was clear and loud and really immersive and felt like it was surrounding you. For a fuller immersive experience, you can use headphones and plug them into the mini jack on the Quest 2 headset, but I usually just play without. The battery life with the standard headset battery hasn't reduced in the last 2 years. I can still get a good 2 hours of gameplay on one charge. To get the best clarity in the headset at first, sometimes you do need to adjust it on your eyes a few times to get the image looking crisp, but it's worth persevering with this when you first get it. You can adjust the lenses to match your IPD. It would be great if there were more IPD settings, but you can adjust the lenses to a midpoint in between settings as well, which is a good workaround. The Pico 4 does smash the Quest 2 in this regard, as it has a motorized IPD which can adjust perfectly to most eyes. Now, I've intentionally not mentioned the Quest Pro up until now because I feel that the price point doesn't make it a realistic alternative to the Quest 2 for most people. It's 3 times the cost of the Quest 2 and doesn't, in my opinion, offer 3 times the value. The Quest Pro is aimed less at gamers and more at developers and those interested in using it for mixed reality and business applications. It does have some really cool features though, with eye tracking and face tracking, and these features are being used in some games like Red Matter 2, and this is a very cool feature, but as I said, I still think it's off the list as a realistic alternative. Surprisingly to me was that the Quest Pro also didn't offer full immersion out of the box. It comes with partial light blockers, and this is in line with the fact that mixed reality is its main focus. The Quest 3 in theory is the most obvious alternative to the Quest 2 because it should incorporate everything we love about the Quest 2 as well as some new features as well, and hopefully at a much more affordable price compared to the Quest Pro. There is no specific date set for this though, and it's the same with Apple's VR headset. You know, both of these could be 2023, 2024, who knows? If you're new to VR and you buy the Quest 2, you will be blown away by what this headset has to offer. And you certainly won't feel like you're using an outdated bit of tech. Although I would allow a little bit of extra money in your budget to upgrade the head strap. The Pico 4 is certainly a possible alternative to the Quest 2, and it's certainly competitive on price. It has got some additional features, but hasn't got the big infrastructure behind it that the Quest 2 has. So you may not see as many frequent updates or as many game releases. And as I said, with regards to the Quest 3, well, why would you wait for that when we don't have a date for it yet? And even if something were to launch in the next few months, if you bought the Quest 2 now, you'd have a few months of fun with it and you'd still be able to sell it for a decent amount of money. So what will you decide? Let me know in the comments. Please subscribe for more VR videos. My name's Rich, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.